All right, so keep it in line with the last video. I'm going to start this one off by giving just a little bit of extra background on me and my connection to this series. Me personally, I'm not a gatekeeper. I'm not an elitist or even all that good at Souls games, but I do love them. I had only seen them from a distance early on and thought that they were clunky and goofy. Some new trend that the strange follower masses were now gluing themselves to. The games didn't look very appealing to me, and I never gave them a second thought. Some years after that, I bought into the Games with Gold program on Xbox 360 and received a free, or better yet, extremely cheap copy of Dark Souls in 2014. I played it for a half hour, still found it clunky and goofy as all hell, but also somewhat intimidating. Hardly anything about it appealed to me other than the opening cutscene and the stamina and weapon system, so I ended up putting it down for a while. And I'm not sure how much time passed after that, but I did eventually come back to the game with an intense desire to play it for some strange reason. And once I picked it up again for that second time, I actually didn't put it down for quite a while, even accidentally completing the game without getting to explore the kiln of the first flame, because I didn't know the bearded guy, no spoilers, was the final boss. And then after that, I actually went as far as buying the sequels to it, and also Bloodborne, playing and beating them as well. And in between all that, I ended up getting hooked on the series lore. I ended up looking up forum posts and wikis to learn more about the characters, the lore, the secrets, and spent hundreds of hours watching playthroughs, lore videos, PvP sessions, and essays on various SoulsBorne games, spanning from Demon Souls to Bloodborne. I've discovered and fought every boss in Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 1 myself, DLC included, and the way I play that game is as much an RPG as it is an action game. So I'm usually very heavy on the stat increases, heavy weapons, shields, upgraded armor, which effectively makes the game much easier in the long run. I'd have to be particularly inspired to do something like a Soul Level 1 run or a non-upgrade run, because that sort of thing, makes the game, that sort of stuff seems tedious to me. So I watch other people do it. If it interests me enough, or eventually I might grow the courage to do something like that. I have attempted some challenges, but they never really hold my interest because I'm just not that type of gamer. And it's cool because Dark Souls gives you that freedom. If you want to do that stuff, you can. But there's a robust community that has all types of videos and stuff. So if you want to just be like a passive observer of this stuff, there's so much content that lets you do that on YouTube, various forums, Reddit, and Twitch. I highly recommend YouTubers VadiVidya and Epic Name Bro, and also A German Spy. Those are my favorite Souls YouTubers. So another aspect is that I've played every Souls game except for Demon Souls. I've never played it, and that's mostly because it's a PS3 exclusive, and I never owned a PS3. I do have some PS3 games, but I've never owned a PS3 specifically, because that system was balls for a very, very long time, so I just never got it. But also I never played Demon Souls because of the tedious and obscure tendency system, which is a whole can of worms in and of itself. I tend to think of the system as brilliant, but I wouldn't want to deal with it to get the full enjoyment out of the game like you really have to. I won't even try to explain what it is. There's plenty of resources on the net to explain it to you. But just know the rules for it change completely if you're playing online compared to offline, and it affects everything from enemy placement and enemy strength to item drops, pickups, and boss encounters. None of this is explained to you in the game. So, I'm just not interested. It's there. I can always play it. I'm somewhat interested. I'm interested enough to where maybe one day I would play it. But currently, there's enough Souls games, there's enough games elsewhere that I just don't want to play it. It just seems like something that would frustrate me to all hell. So when you consider that, Yeah, I ended up watching a Demon Souls playthrough, and I heavily enjoyed it. I enjoyed the game more so than if I would have done it myself. But I'm still interested enough to where one day I might play it if I can get my hands on like a PS3. If I'm interested enough in getting that one day, I might play it. And this extends to other games. I'm not very good at games like Mega Man, the NES Ninja Gaidens, or Contra. But instead of asking for these games to be made easier on my behalf, I'll struggle through them if they interest me enough. Like I did with Contra eventually, even without the Konami code, I eventually did beat that game because I was interested enough. I seen enough people do it, and eventually I worked up the courage to do it myself. But I wouldn't ask for those games to be changed because they are an experience in and of themselves, and beating them does give you something that wouldn't be there if you beat it on a lesser difficulty or if it was designed to be much easier. Um, so yeah, if I'm interested enough, I'll play through a game, struggle through it to beat it. If I'm not interested enough to play through it, but I like certain resources in it, like the art or the characters or the story or something like that, then I will watch a playthrough on YouTube or Twitch. I did that with Mega Man. Yeah, I know personally that Mega Man games aren't made for me because simple things like aiming diagonally are considered huge features, and that kind of stuff just doesn't jazz with me because I'm always like, if you have an opportunity to make to give the player simple tools, you should just do it. Diagonal shooting shouldn't be a huge feature at this day and age. So Mega Man games don't do it for me, but the story and characters interest me enough to where I'm all about watching other people play it at times, and speed runs in that game are pretty entertaining too. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with watching other people play games that aren't for you. Plenty of people do it. You know, you can't really just everything's not gonna be for you at the end of the day. Um, and David Thier, he says that this is a problem with a specific statement aimed at Demon Souls, Dark Souls, and Bloodborne. He says the fact that these games don't have any difficulty settings means that only a certain sort of player with time, inclination, reaction speed, and lack of physical issues will ever see the final boss fight. But on Twitch, this is a problem. I kind of have to say to a lot of that, duh. Like you know, not everybody's gonna beat every game. You know, it goes to what I said before. But I have written a response here to break it down. Let's break that down. He finds the open-ended difficulty in the Soulsborne titles to be a method of gatekeeping, when its intention and implementation is to do the exact opposite, and giving players ample tools to straight up cheese enemies with magic, range, buffs, or crits, or overpower them with its RPG and weapon and gear upgrading mechanics. All that is possible, but the third and most ideal option that From encourages with its game mechanics, narrative, and themes is to persevere and overcome the odds with the knowledge you've gained over the course of your whole adventure. This comes down to the skills. This comes down to you improving your gameplay and getting the validation of beating tough enemies with your own willpower and increased abilities. But really, you can also include cheesing strats and stat item grinding because those are also things you've gained on your adventure too. So this facilitates all types of players. You can be that skillful guy who learned all his skills throughout his adventure, who can soul level 1 through the whole game with just a unupgraded weapon, and you're just as valid as a person who stat grinded with the shield and sword and just upgraded all his weapons and gear. You guys are equally as valid. That's the perfect sort of difficulty system. You make your difficulty yourself. You can either set things to be as hard as possible. You can make them as easy as possible by giving yourself the most upgraded gear and abilities. And this isn't even including magic. This is just basic stuff. Dark Souls has the most organic difficulty system probably ever created in a video game. I hope somebody out there can change my mind in the comments and let me know some other game. But Dark Souls, man, Dark Souls it kills it with the organic difficulty. It's so like fresh and well done that it's kind of changed the whole gaming industry. Like so many games nowadays bite from Dark Souls because it's done stuff in such a unique and a fresh way. Like in the fact that he calls it problematic is crazy to me. And what else did I say here? So after the skills point, basically I say this is the most organic sort of difficulty, and From has instilled it to a science in these games, even inspiring the entire games industry to follow suit. But even after these achievements, Mr. Thier, Mr. Thier said this, the guy who wrote the initial article about Sekiro difficulty, he called Bloodborne arguably, which is arguably the most difficult of these games. He said about it, my drug of choice and one of the most engaging gaming experiences I've ever had. But he also calls organic difficulty problematic. Like, how can it be the most engaging gaming experience you've ever had, but also be entirely too difficult to, to be experienced? It just doesn't make sense. If he thinks Bloodborne is too hard, but it's also one of the most engaging gaming experiences he's ever had, it doesn't follow to me. And what's more, to my previous point, there's nothing wrong with discovering a game's gameplay is not for you, and eventually watching it on Twitch, YouTube, or whatever other video service you watch. If the dev wanted you to buy it, believe me, they would add an easy mode in a heartbeat. I love Castlevania speedruns, but then again, I'll never attempt them. I love the art and characters of the original Mega Man games, but I don't have the patience to deal with the frustrating game design, so I watch them without shame on YouTube and Twitch. I definitely invite you guys to do the same. So I hope that didn't sound patronizing. I do have more to say about this in the next video. I might just not break these apart because it's kind of silly, but at the same time, might break them apart. But yeah, I do have more stuff to say about accessibility versus difficulty and things like that coming up. So definitely stay tuned to the next video, which I think will be the longest one yet. That one will have things like accessibility as well as developer intentions in it. So yep, stay tuned for part 3, which I hope will be the final part of this. And let me know what you guys think so far. Again, I'm not trying to be patronizing. I'm just trying to be realistic and just level-headed about this issue. It's not like I don't know. I'll share more opinions coming up. So appreciate you guys for watching. Take care. Till next time, guys. Peace.